I invited my sister to live with me after her divorce. She seduced my husband and made him leave with half my assets. Everyone laughed behind my back. But on their honeymoon, a legal envelope arrived at their hotel that contained the first of many surprises. "Pack your things, Myra. I'm not staying in a marriage that feels like a prison." The words sliced through the morning air as Ethan stood by the doorway, already dressed, already gone in everything but body. Behind him, Myra, my sister, sat calmly at my kitchen island, sipping coffee in my robe like she had always belonged there, like she hadn't destroyed everything I built. "You're joking," I whispered, staring at them both. Ethan didn't look guilty. Myra smiled instead. "You invited me in," she said softly. "Don't act surprised I stayed. I am Leona Viral, 34 years old, and I have always been the person who fixes things, who takes control, who needs everything perfect because deep down I am terrified that if I let go for even a moment, everything will fall apart. My insecurity masquerades as generosity, and I have spent my entire life mistaking loyalty for love, holding on too tight to people who were already slipping away." Ethan Viral, my husband of 8 years, is 36 and emotionally hollow, the kind of man who chooses comfort over commitment every single time, who drifts toward whoever makes his life easier in the moment. Myra Solin, my younger sister at 32, is the charming manipulator who has always known exactly how to weaponize vulnerability, how to hide her ambition behind tears and soft words. The doorbell rang before I could respond. A lawyer stepped in, handing over documents, asset division papers already signed. Myra's voice turned sweet as poison. "Oh, I forgot to mention he chose me." Ethan didn't correct her. And just like that, I wasn't just betrayed, I was replaced. The lawyer was Daniel Hask, 45, with gray temples and an expression that suggested he had seen this exact scene play out 1,000 times before. He handed me the manila envelope like he was serving a death sentence, which in a way, he was. "Mrs. Viral, these are the finalized asset division documents per the separation agreement your husband filed 3 weeks ago." 3 weeks. 3 weeks, and I had noticed nothing. I had been so busy managing my consulting firm, so consumed with making sure every client was happy, every project perfect, that I had missed my own husband planning his escape. That is my fatal flaw. I focus so hard on controlling the details that I miss the bigger picture collapsing around me. "I never agreed to any separation," I said, my voice shaking. "I never signed anything." Daniel Hask shifted uncomfortably. "Your husband filed under irreconcilable differences." The division of assets was calculated based on California community property law. "You'll receive notice to appear in court within 30 days. Myra stood up, stretching like a cat in the sunlight streaming through my kitchen windows. My windows, my kitchen, my life. "Leona, don't make this harder than it needs to be. You always do this. You hold on when you should let go." My hands clenched into fists. That is another flaw of mine. My temper, the way rage builds inside me like pressure in a sealed container until I either explode or implode. "Get out of my house," I said quietly. "It's not your house anymore," Ethan said, speaking for the first time since the lawyer arrived. "It's community property. I'm entitled to half." "You're entitled to nothing." The words burst out of me, too loud, too raw. Daniel Hask backed toward the door. "I'll leave these documents with you, Mrs. Viral. My office will be in touch regarding the court date." He fled like a man escaping a burning building. Ethan picked up his suitcase from beside the door. I had not even noticed it there. How long had he been planning this? How many mornings had he stood in our bedroom, packing while I slept, preparing to leave me? "Ethan, please, we can talk about this. We can fix this." Even as the words left my mouth, I hated myself for saying them. My pride should have stopped me, but my desperate need to maintain control, to fix what was broken, overrode everything else. He shook his head. "There's nothing to fix, Leona. This marriage has been over for years. You just refused to see it. Because of her." I pointed at Myra, who was now examining her nails like this conversation bored her. "She has nothing to do with this," Ethan said, but his eyes slid away from mine when he spoke. "Liar." I lunged forward and Myra stepped between us, placing one delicate hand on my shoulder. "Leona, calm down. You're being hysterical." I slapped her hand away. "Don't touch me. Don't ever touch me again." Myra's eyes went cold, and for just a moment I saw the real her beneath the gentle facade, calculating, cruel, triumphant. "This is exactly why he's leaving you. You're controlling, paranoid, exhausting. He deserves better." "And you think you're better?" I laughed, a horrible sound that echoed in my empty kitchen. You're a twice-divorced manipulator who came crawling to me 6 months ago because you had nowhere else to go. I took you in. I gave you a home. I trusted you. And I took what I wanted, Myra said simply. The way you've always taken from me our entire lives. That stopped me cold. What are you talking about? Myra's smile was sharp as broken glass. You've always had everything, Leona. The successful career, the beautiful home, the devoted husband. Meanwhile, I've struggled and scraped and been looked down on by our entire family. By you. Did you think I didn't notice the way you pitied me? The way you offered help like you were throwing scraps to a dog? I helped you because you're my sister, I whispered. You helped me because it made you feel superior, Myra countered. Well, congratulations. You finally get to feel what it's like to lose. Ethan grabbed Myra's hand. We should go. They walked out together, leaving me standing in the wreckage of my perfect life. The door closed with a soft click that sounded like a gunshot in the silence. I stood there for a long time, just breathing, just existing in the space between who I had been 10 minutes ago and who I was now. Then I picked up the manila envelope Daniel Hask had left behind and started reading. The asset division was devastating. Half of everything, the house, the savings accounts, the investment portfolio I had built through careful planning and sacrifice. Ethan had contributed financially, yes, but I had been the architect of our wealth, the one who researched and planned and made smart decisions while he drifted through life doing the bare minimum. And now, he was taking half of it to start a new life with my sister. The documents were thorough, professionally prepared, clearly the work of an expensive attorney. That should have been my first clue that something was wrong. Ethan was passive, unmotivated, the kind of man who put off scheduling doctor's appointments for years. He would never have orchestrated something this complex on his own, which meant Myra had planned it. But when? How long had this been in the works? I spent the next 3 days calling in sick to work, something I had never done in my entire career, and diving into our financial records. My obsessive need for control, the same trait that had blinded me to my husband's betrayal, now became my weapon. I reviewed every bank statement, every credit card charge, every digital footprint I could find. My hands shook as I typed. My eyes burned from staring at the computer screen. I forgot to eat until my stomach cramped with hunger. My assistant Sarah called me twice. Leona, are you okay? This isn't like you. I'm fine, I lied. Just dealing with some personal matters. Do you need anything? Should I come over? No, I need to handle this alone. That is my pattern, pushing people away when I need them most, convinced that asking for help is a weakness, that I have to maintain the appearance of having everything under control even when I am falling apart. On the 4th day, I found it. A wire transfer from one of our joint accounts to a private attorney's retainer account, dated 7 months ago. 7 months. That was 1 month after Myra had moved into our guest room, sobbing about her second divorce, swearing she just needed a few weeks to get back on her feet. The retainer was paid to the law firm of Patterson and Associates in Sacramento. I called them immediately. Patterson and Associates, how may I direct your call? I need to speak with whoever handled a retainer payment from Ethan Viral 7 months ago. 1 moment, please. The hold music was classical, mocking me with its serenity. This is Jennifer Patterson. How can I help you? My name is Leona Viral. My husband paid your firm a retainer 7 months ago. I'm calling to understand what services were provided. There was a pause. Mrs. Viral, I'm not at liberty to discuss the details of a client's case without their permission. He's my husband. Those were our joint funds. I understand, but attorney-client privilege applies. If you'd like to dispute the charges, you'll need to consult with your own legal representation. She was polite but firm. I was getting nowhere. I tried a different approach. Can you at least tell me what type of law your firm practices? Another pause. We specialize in family law and estate planning. Family law, divorce. So Ethan had been planning this for at least 7 months, possibly longer. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped the phone. Thank you for your time, I managed to say before hanging up. I sat there staring at the evidence on my screen, feeling my carefully constructed world crumble into dust. But beneath the devastation, something else was growing, something cold and sharp and focused. If Myra wanted to play games, I would show her what happened when you provoked someone who reads everything twice. I started building my case methodically, obsessively, letting my need for control fuel my investigation instead of blind me. I hired my own attorney, a shark named Rebecca Torres who had a reputation for destroying opposing counsel in court. She was 52, sharp-eyed, and expensive. "Tell me everything," Rebecca said during our first meeting in her downtown office. I laid out the timeline, the evidence of premeditation, the wire transfer. Rebecca listened without interrupting, taking notes on a yellow legal pad. "This is good," she said when I finished. "This shows intent to defraud. If we can prove your husband and your sister were in a relationship before he filed for divorce, we can argue he deliberately hid assets and planned this separation to financially harm you. How do we prove it? Phone records, emails, witness testimony. Do they have social media accounts? Ethan barely uses his, but Myra is constantly posting. Good, screenshot everything. I want a complete timeline of every interaction they had while she was living in your home." I spent the next week doing exactly that, compiling evidence with the same obsessive attention to detail I brought to my work projects. I barely slept, surviving on coffee and rage. My business partner, Diane, called. "Leona, the Anderson presentation is tomorrow, and you haven't returned any of my calls. What's going on?" "I can't do the presentation," I said. "What? Leona, this is $1 million account. We've been working on this for 6 months. "I know, I'm sorry, you'll have to handle it." There was a long silence. "This isn't like you at all. Are you in some kind of trouble?" "My husband is leaving me for my sister and taking half of everything I own," I said flatly. "Is that trouble enough?" Diane sucked in a breath. "Oh my God, Leona, I'm so sorry. Forget the presentation. What do you need?" "How can I help? I need time. I need to handle this. Take all the time you need, and Leona, destroy them." I smiled for the first time in days. "That's the plan." But my obsession was taking a toll. I stopped answering calls from friends. I stopped going to the gym. I stopped doing all the small maintenance tasks that keep a life running smoothly. My house filled with dirty dishes and unopened mail. I wore the same clothes for days. My reflection in the mirror looked hollow, haunted. One night my mother called. "Leona, I heard about the separation. I'm so sorry, sweetheart. Did Myra tell you?" "She called yesterday. She said you two had a falling out." A falling out, like we had argued about whose turn it was to host Thanksgiving. "Is that what she called it?" "She seemed very upset. She said you blamed her for your marriage problems." "Mom, Myra slept with Ethan. She seduced my husband while living in my house, and now they're getting married." Silence on the other end. Then, "Leona, are you sure? Myra said you were going through a difficult time, that you were making accusations." "Oh my God, you believe her." My voice cracked. "You actually believe her over me." "I'm not taking sides, sweetheart. I'm just saying that sometimes when we're hurt, we look for someone to blame." I hung up. I sat on my kitchen floor and cried for the first time since they left, great heaving sobs that shook my entire body. My own mother did not believe me. My own mother thought I was being hysterical, irrational, exactly what Myra had said. That is when I almost gave up. That is when my flaws almost won, my need for validation, my fear that maybe I was wrong, maybe I was too controlling, maybe I had driven Ethan away. But then I thought about Myra's smile, the way she had sat in my kitchen wearing my robe, the calculated cruelty in her eyes when she said she took what she wanted. I picked myself up off the floor, washed my face, and went back to work. Rebecca Torres called 3 days later. "I found something. Your husband's property transfer documents. There's a missing verification stamp from the county recorder's office. The transfer isn't legally complete." My heart started racing. "What does that mean?" "It means he doesn't legally own half your assets yet, and if we can prove fraud, we might be able to block the transfer entirely." "How?" "I need you to file a formal complaint alleging fraud and coercion. We'll request an injunction freezing all assets pending investigation. But Leona, this is going to get ugly. Are you prepared for that?" I thought about Myra's triumphant smile, about Ethan's cold indifference, about my mother's doubt. "Yes," I said, "I'm ready." We filed the complaint the next morning. Within 48 hours, all joint assets were frozen pending investigation. Ethan called me for the first time since he left. "What the hell did you do, Leona?" "I protected what's mine." "You can't do this, I have rights." "So do I, and unlike you, I didn't commit fraud." "This is ridiculous, you're being vindictive." I laughed. "Vindictive? Ethan, you planned to leave me for 7 months while pretending everything was fine. You paid an attorney with our joint funds without my knowledge. You're now living with my sister, and I'm vindictive. We can settle this reasonably." "No, we're going to court. And when the judge sees the evidence of your premeditation, of your affair, you're going to wish you had been honest from the start." I hung up before he could respond. But my vindictive streak was showing, the way I took pleasure in his panic, and somewhere in the back of my mind I wondered if I was going too far. Was I becoming the cruel, controlling person Myra had accused me of being? I pushed the thought away. 3 weeks later, Rebecca called with news. They're getting married. What? Ethan and Myra, they filed for a marriage license. The wedding is scheduled for next month. Something dark and cold settled in my chest. Where? Does it matter? Tell me where, Rebecca. She sighed. They're planning a destination wedding. Some resort in Cabo San Lucas. They're calling it a honeymoon wedding. Of course they were. Of course Myra would want the fairy tale, the romantic beach ceremony, the Instagram-perfect celebration of her victory over me. My hands clenched. Can we stop it? The wedding? No. But Leona, I've been digging deeper into your sister's background. She's changed her name twice in the past 10 years. Before she was Myra Solin, she was Myra Davidson, and before that she was Myra Catherine Walsh. Why would she change her name? I don't know yet, but people who change their names multiple times are usually running from something. Give me a few more days. I spent those days planning, obsessing, letting my need for control evolve into something sharper. I could feel myself changing, becoming someone harder, and part of me wondered if this revenge was worth losing myself. But I was too far gone to stop now. Rebecca called back with the answer. Your sister has a record. Fraud charges in Arizona dismissed on a technicality. She convinced an elderly man she was his long-lost granddaughter and borrowed $50,000 from him before disappearing. The family couldn't prove she knowingly lied, so the charges were dropped. My breath caught. Does Ethan know? I doubt it. But Leona, there's more. I pulled all the financial records from the asset transfer. The paperwork was filed incorrectly, wrong forms, missing signatures, invalid notarization. This wasn't just sloppy. This was deliberate. If I had to guess, your sister convinced Ethan she knew what she was doing and filed everything herself to save money on attorney fees. So the transfer is invalid. Completely. And when we prove fraud, Ethan could face criminal charges for filing false documents. A plan formed in my mind, perfect and precise. Rebecca, can you draft injunctions freezing all transferred assets? Already done. I've been waiting for your approval to file. File them, but don't serve them to Ethan and Myra here. Send them to their hotel in Cabo. Rebecca was quiet for a moment. That's dramatic. They humiliated me publicly. They laughed behind my back. My own mother took Myra's side. I want them to feel the same panic, the same helplessness I felt. Leona, I need to advise you that this approach, while legal, is going to burn every bridge you have with these people. Good. I want them burned. Rebecca laughed, a sound like breaking ice. I'll have the documents couriered to their hotel on their wedding day. They won't see it coming. I smiled, and it felt like something breaking open inside me, my last bit of restraint dissolving into pure focused vengeance. 2 weeks later, Myra posted a photo on social media, her and Ethan on a white sand beach, both smiling, both glowing with happiness they had stolen from me. The caption read, "Starting our forever in paradise." Sometimes the best things come when you least expect them. The comments were full of congratulations from people who did not know the truth, who saw only the beautiful couple in love. My cousin Julia commented, "You two look so happy, congratulations." My Aunt Sharon commented, "Such a beautiful bride, wishing you both a lifetime of love." They did not know. They did not care. They saw the pretty picture and believed the lie. I screenshot everything and sent it to Rebecca. "Perfect timing," she said. "The courier is delivering the documents tomorrow morning at 9. Tomorrow morning, while they were probably having breakfast, probably planning their perfect honeymoon day, a legal envelope would arrive that would detonate their entire world. I should have felt satisfaction. Instead, I felt hollow, wondering if this revenge would fill the empty space Ethan and Myra had left behind or just make it bigger. But I was committed now. There was no going back. The next morning, I woke at dawn, too anxious to sleep. I imagined the scene, the knock on the hotel room door, the courier with the legal envelope, Myra's face as she opened it and saw the injunctions, the fraud investigation notice, the summonses. I imagined Ethan's panic, the way he would try to call his attorney only to discover that nothing could be done, that the wheels of justice were already turning. My phone rang at 7 in the morning. It was Rebecca. "It's done." The documents were delivered 15 minutes ago. My contact at the hotel confirmed they were received by Myra Solin herself. What did she say? According to the hotel staff, she went very pale and asked if it was a joke. When they confirmed it was a legitimate legal delivery, she shut the door without tipping the courier. I laughed. I could not help it. Rebecca continued. Leona, I need to prepare you. This is going to escalate quickly. Your husband's attorney will likely file emergency motions. There will be calls, threats, possibly media attention if they decide to go public with their side of the story. Let them. I have the truth on my side. The truth is subjective in court. Be ready for them to paint you as a vengeful ex-wife who can't let go. They can paint me however they want. The evidence speaks for itself. I hung up and waited. The first call came 20 minutes later. Ethan. I did not answer. He called again and again. On the fourth call, I picked up. What, Ethan? What the hell have you done? His voice was ragged, panicked. I protected my assets from fraud. This is insane. You can't freeze everything. We're on our honeymoon. Really? Because I thought you were on a vacation funded by stolen money. It's not stolen. We have a legal separation agreement, which you filed using fraudulent documents with missing verification stamps and invalid notarization. Did Myra help you with that paperwork, Ethan? Did she convince you she knew what she was doing? Silence. That's what I thought. Maybe you should ask your new wife about her history of fraud charges in Arizona, or about why she's changed her name 3 times in 10 years. You're lying. Am I? Check her background yourself. Her real name is Myra Catherine Walsh. She convinced an elderly man she was his granddaughter and stole $50,000 from him. Leona, please, we can work this out. Just drop the injunctions and we'll renegotiate. No, please, they're saying we might face criminal charges. You should have thought about that before you committed fraud. I didn't know. Myra said she had experience with divorce paperwork, that we could save money. And you believed her. Just like you believed her when she said I was controlling and paranoid. Just like you believed everything she told you, because you're too weak to think for yourself. My voice had risen, my temper breaking through the careful control I had maintained. This is my flaw. When pushed too far, I lash out, I say the cruel thing, I go for the throat. Leona, I'm sorry, I know I hurt you. I know I handled this badly, but please, I'm begging you. You're begging me. Where was this emotion when you walked out of our house? Where was this when you handed me divorce papers while my sister sat in my kitchen wearing my robe? Ethan was crying now. I could hear it in his breathing. I made a mistake, a terrible mistake, but you can't ruin my entire life over it. I'm not ruining your life, Ethan. I'm revealing the truth. There's a difference. I hung up. My hands were shaking. Myra called next. I almost did not answer, but curiosity won out. Hello, Myra. You vindictive bitch. Her voice was pure venom, the sweet facade completely gone. There it is, the real you. Do you have any idea what you've done? The hotel is threatening to kick us out because we can't pay the bill. Our bank accounts are frozen. We can't even buy food. That must be difficult for you, almost as difficult as discovering your husband is leaving you for your sister. This is different and you know it. We're not criminals. Aren't you? You committed fraud, Myra. You filed false legal documents. You stole from me. I didn't steal anything. Ethan is entitled to half. Not when the marriage was built on a lie. Not when you planned the whole thing before moving into my house. Myra laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. You think you're so smart, don't you? You think you've won, but you're alone, Leona. Ethan chose me. Your own mother believed me over you. Nobody is on your side. The words hit harder than I expected, finding the raw, wounded place inside me that still desperately needed validation, still feared that maybe I was the problem. Maybe, I said quietly, but I'd rather be alone with my integrity than be you. Integrity? You're destroying us out of spite. I'm destroying you because you destroyed me first. And unlike you, I'm using the legal system instead of manipulation and lies. We'll fight this. We'll prove you're lying about the fraud. Good luck. My attorney has already filed the evidence with the court. By tomorrow morning, there will be a formal investigation. And Myra, they're going to dig into your entire history, every name change, every fraudulent scheme. Arizona was just the start, wasn't it? Her silence told me I was right. You can't do this, she finally whispered. I already did. Enjoy your honeymoon. I hung up and immediately blocked both their numbers. My hands were still shaking, but now it was from adrenaline, from the dark satisfaction of finally striking back. But that satisfaction was tinged with something else, guilt, maybe, or fear that I was becoming exactly what Myra had accused me of being. Rebecca called that evening. The story gets better. I have a contact at the resort who says your husband tried to negotiate a payment plan for their hotel bill and was refused. They're now confined to their room until they can settle the charges. Confined. The hotel has security watching their door to make sure they don't leave without paying. It's standard procedure for potential fraud cases. I should not have enjoyed that information as much as I did. There's more, Rebecca continued. The fraud investigation triggered a deeper audit of your husband's finances. Turns out he's been hiding some significant debts, credit cards, personal loans, gambling losses. The total is around $70,000. My stomach dropped. Gambling? Online poker mostly. He's been doing it for years, apparently. The debt is solely in his name, so it won't affect you, but it explains why he was so eager to get half your assets. He never told me. They never do. But Leona, this actually helps our case. We can argue that he initiated the divorce not because the marriage was failing, but because he needed your money to cover his debts. The pieces were falling into place, painting a picture even uglier than I had imagined. Ethan had not just betrayed me, he had used me. Planned to drain our shared assets to pay for his secret addiction while starting fresh with Myra. What about Myra's background? I asked. Still digging, but I found 2 more aliases and at least 1 more fraud complaint, this one in Nevada. She has a pattern of targeting vulnerable people, recently divorced, elderly, emotionally fragile, and manipulating them for financial gain. She saw Ethan as vulnerable, and you as the source of money. I'd bet my license that she researched your financial situation before she ever moved in. This was planned from the beginning. My chest felt tight. I had invited the predator into my home. I had trusted her, helped her, given her access to everything. My need to fix people, to be the generous, successful sister, had made me the perfect mark. Leona, you still there? Yeah, I'm here. Are you okay? I'm fine, just processing. Listen, I know this is hard. But you need to prepare yourself for the long game. This case could take months. Your husband and sister are going to fight back. They're going to make you the villain. Can you handle that? Could I handle being painted as the bitter ex-wife, the controlling shrew, the vindictive woman who could not let go? Could I handle the whispers, the judgment, the loneliness? Yes, I said, because there was no other answer. I had started this. I would finish it. 3 days later, Ethan and Myra returned from Cabo. They posted nothing about it online. The resort photos disappeared from social media. According to Rebecca's contact, they had ultimately paid their hotel bill using a credit card, probably adding to Ethan's mountain of debt. But the real consequences were just beginning. The fraud investigation moved forward with bureaucratic efficiency. Court dates were scheduled. Depositions were arranged. Evidence was submitted. And throughout it all, I maintained my obsessive focus, reviewing every document, checking every detail, making sure nothing was missed. My business partner, Diane, staged an intervention. Leona, you haven't been to the office in 6 weeks. The other partners are getting concerned. We were having coffee at a cafe near my house, the first time I had left home for anything other than legal meetings in weeks. I looked terrible, dark circles under my eyes, weight loss making my clothes hang loose, hair pulled back in a messy ponytail instead of my usual sleek bun. I know, I'm sorry, I just need a little more time. It's been 6 weeks. How much more time? Until it's over. Diane reached across the table and grabbed my hand. Leona, look at me, really look at me. You're destroying yourself over this. Is it worth it? They tried to take everything from me. My money, my dignity, my family. Yes, it's worth it. But you're letting them take something else. Your health, your career, your future. Don't you see? They've already won if you lose yourself in the process. Her words echoed in my head for days. Was I losing myself? Had my obsessive need for revenge replaced one form of control with another, equally destructive? But every time I considered backing off, I thought about Myra's smile, about the way she had casually destroyed my life while drinking coffee in my robe, and the rage would flood back. The depositions began in March, 4 months after Ethan had walked out. I sat across a conference table from him for the first time since our last phone call. He looked terrible, gaunt, exhausted, defeated. Myra sat beside him, still beautiful but with a hardness around her eyes that had not been there before. My attorney, Rebecca, led the questioning. Mr. Viral, can you explain why you paid a 7-month retainer to a divorce attorney while still living with your wife and giving no indication you were unhappy in the marriage? Ethan's attorney, a nervous young man named Peter Grant, objected. Relevance. It establishes premeditation and intent to deceive, Rebecca said calmly. I'll allow it, the court reporter said. Ethan shifted in his seat. I was unhappy. I needed to explore my options. Explore your options. Did those options include beginning a romantic relationship with your wife's sister while she was living in your shared home? Objection. Assumes facts, not an evidence. I'll rephrase. Mr. Viral, when did your romantic relationship with Myra Solon begin? Ethan glanced at Myra. After I moved out. That's interesting because we have text messages between you and Ms. Solin from 8 months ago, 1 month after she moved in, that are clearly romantic in nature. Would you like me to read them into the record? Ethan's face went red. We were just talking. Just talking? Let me read one dated October 15th. From you to Ms. Solin. I can't stop thinking about last night. When can we be alone again? Does that sound like talking, Mr. Viral? The deposition continued like that for 3 hours, each answer unraveling another lie, each question exposing another layer of deception. When it was Myra's turn, Rebecca went for the throat. Ms. Solin, is it true that your legal name has changed 3 times in the past 10 years? Myra's attorney, a sharp woman named Lisa Chen, interrupted. What bearing does my client's name have on this case? It establishes a pattern of deception and identity manipulation, Rebecca said. I'll allow it, the court reporter said again. Myra lifted her chin defiantly. I changed my name for personal reasons. Personal reasons such as avoiding fraud charges in Arizona under the name Myra Davidson. Those charges were dropped. On a technicality, yes, but the allegation stands that you defrauded an elderly man of $50,000 by claiming to be his granddaughter. Is that true? I was never convicted of anything. That's not what I asked. Did you or did you not accept $50,000 from Harold Davidson under false pretenses? Myra's jaw tightened. I believed we were related. It was a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding that resulted in you disappearing with his money and changing your name. How convenient. The depositions ended with Ethan and Myra looking shaken, their attorneys whispering urgently about settlement negotiations. As we left the conference room, Myra grabbed my arm in the hallway. You're going to regret this, Leona. I promise you that. I pulled my arm free. I already regret plenty, Myra, but destroying you isn't one of them. Rebecca pulled me away before things could escalate, but I saw something in Myra's eyes that frightened me, a desperate calculation, the look of a cornered animal planning its escape. 2 weeks later, Rebecca called with unexpected news. They want to settle. What? Ethan's attorney reached out. They're willing to drop all claims to your assets in exchange for you dropping the fraud investigation. I thought about it for exactly 3 seconds. No. Leona, this is a good offer. You'd keep everything, the house, the savings, all of it. You'd win. But they'd walk away without consequences. Ethan would still have his debts, but Myra would convince him to try again with someone else. She'd find another mark, another victim. No, I want them prosecuted. If we go to trial, there's a chance you could lose. There's a chance, but there's also a chance I could win and they'd face criminal charges. I'll take those odds. Rebecca sighed. You're a difficult client, Leona, but I respect your conviction. I'll tell them the offer is rejected. The rejection must have panicked them because 3 days later my mother called. Leona, sweetheart, I think we need to talk. About what, Mom? Myra called me. She's very upset about this legal situation. She says you're being unreasonable, that you're trying to send her to jail over a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? Is that what she called committing fraud and stealing my husband? She says it wasn't like that. She says she and Ethan fell in love, that these things happen, and you're being vindictive. My hand clenched around the phone. Did she mention that she planned the whole thing months in advance? That she researched my finances before moving in? That she has a history of fraud under multiple aliases? She explained about the name changes. She had difficult relationships, abusive partners. She needed fresh starts. And the fraud charges in Arizona and Nevada, how did she explain those? Silence. She didn't mention Nevada. Because she's a liar, Mom. She's always been a liar. And she's using you the same way she used me, counting on your love for her to blind you to what she really is. Leona, she's your sister. She's family. She stopped being my sister when she seduced my husband in my own home. She's a stranger who happens to share my DNA. And I'm done protecting her from the consequences of her actions. You're being cruel. I'm being honest. There's a difference. The Leona, I know, wouldn't destroy her own sister like this. The Leona you know is gone, Mom. She died the day her family chose her betrayer over her. I hung up and cried again, great heaving sobs that left me exhausted and empty. My mother's words had found the vulnerable place inside me, the part that still desperately wanted approval, wanted to be seen as good and kind and reasonable. But I was none of those things anymore. I had become something harder, sharper, more dangerous. The question was whether I could live with what I had become. The trial was scheduled for May, 7 months after Ethan had left. Rebecca prepared me for what was coming. They're going to attack your character. They'll paint you as controlling, obsessive, impossible to live with. They'll say Ethan fled an abusive relationship. Let them. The evidence doesn't lie. Evidence can be interpreted different ways. Be prepared for them to twist everything. The courtroom was smaller than I expected, less dramatic than television had led me to believe. Ethan and Myra sat at the defendant's table, both dressed conservatively, both playing the part of wronged innocence. I sat behind Rebecca, wearing a navy suit, my hair pulled back, my face carefully neutral. The prosecution, because this had escalated to criminal fraud charges, laid out their case methodically. They showed the wire transfer to the attorney 7 months before the separation. They showed text messages between Ethan and Myra proving the affair started while she lived in my home. They showed the fraudulent property transfer documents with their missing verification stamps and invalid notarization. They brought in an expert witness who explained how the paperwork had been deliberately filed incorrectly, likely to slip through bureaucratic cracks. And then they showed Myra's history: 3 name changes, fraud allegations in 2 states, a pattern of targeting vulnerable people for financial gain. The defense tried to counter. They brought in a psychologist who testified that I exhibited signs of narcissistic personality disorder, that my need for control had driven Ethan away. They showed emails where I had micromanaged household decisions, questioned Ethan's choices, insisted things be done my way. They were not wrong about my flaws. I am controlling. I am obsessive. I do have trouble letting go, but that did not excuse fraud. When I took the stand, Ethan's attorney Peter Grant went straight for my weaknesses. "Mrs. Viral, would you say you had a controlling personality?" "I would say I like things done correctly." "You insisted on managing all household finances, correct? Your husband had no access to bank statements or credit cards without your approval." "That's not true. We had joint accounts. Ethan had full access. But you made all the major financial decisions, didn't you? You decided how money was spent, where it was invested. I made informed decisions based on research and planning. Ethan was free to participate but chose not to. Chose not to, or was discouraged from participating." Rebecca objected. "Speculation." "Sustained," the judge said. Peter Grant switched tactics. "Mrs. Viral, when did you last tell your husband you loved him?" The question caught me off guard. I thought back to those last weeks when I had been so busy with work, so consumed with keeping everything perfect. I don't remember exactly. Days, weeks, months. I don't know. "Isn't it possible, Mrs. Viral, that your husband left not because of fraud or deception, but because he was unhappy in a marriage where he felt controlled and unloved?" Tears burned behind my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. It's possible he was unhappy. But that doesn't excuse committing fraud. That doesn't excuse betraying me with my own sister. No further questions. The trial lasted 3 weeks. 3 weeks of testimony, evidence, expert witnesses, character assassination. 3 weeks of having my life dissected in public, my flaws exposed, my failures highlighted. By the end, I felt hollowed out, exhausted, wondering if Rebecca's friend had been right. Was this revenge worth what it was costing me? The jury deliberated for 4 days. When they returned, the courtroom was packed. My mother was there, sitting on Myra's side. That hurt more than I expected. The foreman stood. "In the case of the state versus Ethan Viral and Myra Solin on the charge of fraud in the filing of legal documents, we find the defendants guilty." Guilty. The word echoed through the courtroom. Myra's face crumpled. Ethan put his head in his hands. My mother gasped. And I felt nothing, just emptiness where the rage used to be. The judge sentenced them to probation and ordered them to pay restitution for all legal fees and damages. They would not go to prison, but their reputations were destroyed, their financial lives in ruins. Ethan's gambling debts would follow him for years. Myra's fraud history was now public record. They would not easily find new victims. As we left the courthouse, Myra blocked my path. "I hope you're happy," she spat. "You got your revenge, but look at you, you're alone, miserable, broken, you didn't win anything." I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw someone I pitied more than hated. "You're right," I said quietly. "I am alone, I am miserable. This revenge didn't make me whole again, but it did one thing you'll never understand." "What's that?" "It gave me back my truth. You tried to gaslight me, to make me doubt my own reality, to convince everyone I was crazy. And I proved I wasn't. That's worth more than happiness." Myra's eyes narrowed. "You're pathetic." "Maybe, but I'm not a convicted fraud, so I'll take pathetic over criminal." I walked away before she could respond. Rebecca caught up with me in the parking lot. "Leona, you okay?" Ask me in a year, she laughed. Fair enough. For what it's worth, I think you did the right thing. Did I? Look what it cost me, my family, my peace of mind, 7 months of my life. You got justice. That counts for something. Does it? I drove home to my empty house, this enormous, beautiful house that I had worked so hard for, that had been the center of my perfect life. It felt like a mausoleum now, full of memories of who I used to be. I thought about Diane's words that I was losing myself in this revenge. She had been right. The woman who had started this journey would not recognize the woman I had become. But maybe that was not entirely bad. The old Leona had been blind to manipulation, desperate for approval, controlled by her need to be perfect. The new Leona understood that perfection was a lie, that control was an illusion, that sometimes the only thing you could do was burn down what was broken and hope something better grew from the ashes. 6 months later, I ran into Ethan at a grocery store. He looked older, tired, defeated. We stared at each other across the produce section. Leona, Ethan, how have you been? Better, you? Not great. Myra left me 3 months ago. She couldn't handle the financial pressure, the public shame. She's somewhere in Oregon now, I heard. New name, probably new mark. I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I just felt sad. I'm sorry. He laughed bitterly. Are you, though? I'm sorry your life turned out this way. I'm not sorry I held you accountable. I deserved it, all of it. I was weak, selfish. I let her manipulate me because it was easier than working on our marriage. We both let our marriage die, Ethan. You threw betrayal, me through neglect. I own my part in that. Are you seeing anyone? No, honestly, I don't know if I'm ready to trust anyone again. Me neither. For what it's worth, Leona, you were right about everything. And I'm sorry I put you through this. Thank you. That actually means something. We stood there in awkward silence for a moment. Then Ethan grabbed his cart and walked away, and I watched him go. This man I had built a life with, this man who had destroyed it, and felt the last thread of connection between us finally break. I finished my shopping, went home, and for the first time in a year I felt like I could breathe. The revenge had not made me whole. It had not erased the pain or healed the betrayal. But it had given me something important, the knowledge that I was strong enough to fight for myself, smart enough to outmaneuver people who underestimated me, resilient enough to survive losing everything and build again. A month later, I sold the house. Too many ghosts, too many memories. I bought a smaller place downtown, started going back to work full-time, began rebuilding relationships I had neglected during my obsession with revenge. My mother called on my birthday. Leona, I owe you an apology. Mom, please let me say this. I believed Myra because it was easier than accepting that she could do something so cruel. I failed you when you needed me most. I'm sorry. I cried, releasing months of hurt and anger. Thank you. That means more than you know. Are you doing okay? I'm getting there, slowly. Your father and I would like to see you, maybe dinner next week. I'd like that. We were rebuilding piece by piece. It would never be the same, but maybe it could be something better. One evening, while unpacking boxes in my new place, I found a photo from my wedding day, me and Ethan, young and hopeful, believing we had forever ahead of us. I should have thrown it away. Instead, I put it in a frame and placed it on a shelf, a reminder of who I used to be, what I had survived, and what I had learned. The revenge had changed me. It had shown me my capacity for calculated cruelty, for obsessive focus, for burning bridges without hesitation. Those traits frightened me sometimes, made me wonder if I had lost something essential in the process of fighting back. But they had also shown me my strength, my resilience, my refusal to be a victim. I was not the same Leona who had stood in her kitchen watching her husband leave with her sister. That Leona had been passive, desperate to please, terrified of losing control. The new Leona understood that sometimes you lose control anyway, and the only choice is how you respond, with grace or with fire. I had chosen fire. And yes, I had burned. But I had also survived. Myra had said I did not win anything. She was wrong. I had won myself back. Not the perfect version I had tried to be, but the real, flawed, complicated version. The woman who could be both generous and vengeful, both kind and cruel, both victim and victor. I was alone. I was damaged. I was changed. But I was free. And that, in the end, was revenge enough.